Last we left off, our darling protagonist Tyria was embroidering like her life depended on it, so let's see how that goes. Although it was quiet after the prince left, the sunlight through the window gradually faded away. The moonlight shone in through the window instead of sunlight. The flow of clouds could be clearly noticed. Tyria looked again at the clock. Obviously, the set time would come to an end within only an hour. If it went on like this, Tyria would not be able to finish the work on the regulated time. A repulsive idea flashed through Tyria's mind. No, I could not give up. Tyria made her mind up after gaining courage while tapping lightly on her head with sound like bang bang. All right, I will go for it. Tyria would conquer herself if she finished sewing up the last 4 pieces of cloth during the following time. Her hand moved continuously with the speed of stitching, which was faster than just now. How is Tyria now, who was a layman a few hours ago? She mastered the workmanship of fine finished products with speed almost like that of a professional. However, despite all of this, the relentless time was up. Okay, she just said you'll have to work overtime. She didn't say that if you don't finish in 8 hours, you're dead, kid. Before Tyria finished sewing, the clock hanging on the wall in the room rang. Tyria, have you finished sewing? Rosette-senpai! Tyria felt powerless as soon as she saw Rosette. The nervous feeling of sewing alone in a tense atmosphere was finally relieved up to now. I'm sorry, I couldn't finish sewing all the 50 pieces of cloth. Tyria felt very unwilling to say so and bit her lip. There were a few tears in her eyes. How many pieces are left? There are 2 pieces left. Are there? In sharp contrast with Tyria's unwillingness, a smile appeared on Rosette's face. 50 pieces of cloth had been sewn up. Huh? What do you mean? Nothing, because there are 2 pieces which are extra ones. Huh? Tyria made a surprised sound. In fact, there are more cloth in the basket than required quantity. Why did you do such a thing? There's a supplement as effective work. It's a matter of course to put in preparations. I see. And that's arranged to make sure you won't slack. Senpai was really bad. I wish she'd made it clear to me in the beginning. Rosette sighed while Tyria thought like this. Because I think you will not be so skillful. Because I think you will not be so skilled if I'd made it clear to you from the start. Hey, why is that? It's just that feeling. Rosette moved on to another topic with the sentence, it's just that feeling. Why would you be upset, Tyria? And beside the fact, even if there were 2 left out of 50 in 8 hours, those are only gonna take, like, not that long to do. If you've done 50 or 48 in 8 hours, they aren't gonna take you very long at all. You just do it. I don't think Senpai Rosette would have been upset anyway. Tyria dropped her shoulder and felt a little upset. However, anyway, today's work was finished. She felt she could be happier. It wasn't long before the joy of finishing the work softened her facial expression. What's wrong with you? You look so uncomfortable. Rosette seriously teased Tyria while looking at her silly smile. Tyria rubbed her face with 2 hands to adjust the facial expression. Rosette laughed while saying, what a strange child. Tyria also smiled shyly while seeing Rosette's reflection. After that, Tyria and Rosette went out of the corridor and went back to the dormitory. Just then, Tyria felt as if a familiar person was going upstairs. The reason why Tyria felt was because the distance was too far away. It was difficult to judge just by vision. Was that Sheerith? The clothes and shape were similar. It was hard to imagine what Tyria was wrong. However, Sheerith particularly came and asked for Tyria's help. He shouldn't be the one who can't come to the palace. What are you doing? Let's go. Ah, okay. Tyria's thought was interrupted. An urge to leave by Senpai. The next morning, Tyria was arranged for preparing breakfast and she prepared under Rosette's guidance. Today, Ms. Menu was garlic toast and corn soup with potato salad. What's more, there was also pastrami, omu rice, and salmon. What a palace! The varieties of dishes are indeed very rich. She began to fold napkins after finishing putting the ingredients of these dishes in place. At that moment, Victor appeared with a worried face. Tyria could not help being frightened. All the people working here as servants are coming to my room right now, Victor said while wiping his glasses with a handkerchief as before. Victor actually called together all the servants. What was going on next? Tyria could not help sensing a very unpleasant presentiment. Although the servants around Tyria also began to make noises, they still assembled in the room according to Victor's words. The room was not so crowded, however, the room was a little narrow with more than 10 servants standing around. Victor looked around in a weird atmosphere. Carefully looked at each person's face and stared at them. It was a kind of feeling that hard to get close to. Tyria was carefully hiding her thoughts, although she thought so. Among you, it seems that someone entered my room and stole the intelligence. Stole the intelligence? What does that mean? Take a look at this. Victor held up the record book so that anyone could see it. Tyria was astonished because the record book was the article used by Tyria. It seems to be a blank sheet of paper? Rosette felt very puzzled. Victor said yes, with a posture trying to say, I was waiting for you to say the sentence, but if by doing so, a charcoal pencil used for line drawing dashing on the record book. Numbers, time, and other information emerged. Everyone presented came out in a voice, ah, shit. Tyria thought so. She did not notice that she had left marks on the next page because she wrote hard. Tyria didn't expect Victor to notice such a tiny place. It's obviously someone has stolen the intelligence, therefore I've decided to find the criminal who stole the intelligence. Is that so? I see. As the director of servants, Rosette made a summary to everyone. I think we can't work well if we've been suspected all the time, but how to find out the criminal? Very simple. Next, everyone was to write numbers and names. Is that for comparing the handwriting? Victor nodded, said yes, and walked to the front of the leftmost person. What if the criminal changes handwriting intentionally? If I think someone's writing isn't very smooth, I will let the person write again. After all, the habit of writing is not so that you could change it once. Whenever a person finished writing, Victor began to review and compare. The person who was judged to have no problem suddenly became relaxed and looked relieved. The sound of writing on paper was intermittent. What should I do? Tyria was in the middle of a second row. If it went on like this, Tyria would be exposed. Victor could be seen dimly from behind servants as Tyria looked anxiously at Victor. The bell rang. Is it the Phantom Thief, Superior? Victor showed a very surprised expression after hearing the sudden ringing of the bell. Servants presented began to stir up, and the room suddenly became noisy. If it goes on like this, there will be no point in continuing to find the criminal. Servants, you could all go back to your rooms. Yes, I see. Rosette just stared at Victor's face after bowing. Is there anything else? Though it may not be my business, could the Phantom Thief be the criminal actually? I see, about that. I didn't think of it. Victor showed a surprised expression after hearing Rosette's thoughts. He listened to and took the idea. Well, this time it's on hold. You can quit now. After hearing Victor's words, Rosette began to walk out of the room. The servants followed Rosette one by one, walked out of Victor's room. Saved. Tyria just relaxed. It seemed Tyria was saved by the Phantom Thief again. Tyria thanked the Phantom Thief in heart and was relieved. After that, Tyria went back to the dormitory and cleaned the room to spend the rest of the time. Early next morning, Tyria was arranged to wipe the corridor, and she concentrated on the work. Just then, suddenly she ran into someone and almost couldn't help making strange noises. Whoa, I'm sorry, it's my fault that I didn't see the front. Tyria raised head, a feeling of possibly knowing the other hit her. Tyria's memory should be good. Therefore, the person who has been seen once should be remembered. Brown hair like a bear and dark brown eyes? You should be the person who kidnapped me. You can't say that out loudly. The man covered Tyria's mouth with one hand in a hurry. What? I just said the truth. The man raised his head with a sigh and finally loosened the hand over Tyria's mouth. I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Henry Bad Rabot. Henry, I have something to ask you. Henry said, what is it? And grinned. If you were entrusted by Sheriff, even if you didn't kidnap me, I would go with you just as long as you told me what was going on. Oh, well, it's good to do that, but if just so, would it be interesting? Henry said so carelessly. Tyria could not help feeling hateful about Henry's worry-free smile. What, would it be interesting? Do you know how scared I was then? When Tyria grabbed Henry's collar and shook it, Henry made the sound of goo, which sounded like a squashed frog. Okay, I was sorry to get carried away. Henry, who raised his hands in surrender, didn't seem to be introspective. Having just let go of Henry's collar, Henry's words, "It's better to be shook more vigorously," made Tyria regret that she had let him go. Are you really introspecting? Tyria glared at Henry's, whose arms were in front of his chest, and quickly put two hands together. Tyria, I'm introspecting. Just forgive me. Tyria? Tyria's brow knit together because of this friendly addressing way. Oh, couldn't I call you Tyria? Dog's ears seemed to appear on the head of Henry as he said so. Tyria narrowed her eyes and looked carefully. No, it was illusion. It's just that Henry's obedient look made him look like a big dog. I say, couldn't I call you Tyria? Tyria was frightened and couldn't help stepping back a few steps after Henry's attitude suddenly became tender and soft, even if it doesn't matter. Really? So Tyria, thank you for your care in future. Care means... Because I'm also going to work in the palace. Ah, I see. Thank you for your care in the future too. Although the first impression was not so good, it's fun to have a new work partner. Being able to have a partner like Henry really made Tyria happy because Tyria had no one to talk to. Tyria stretched out a hand in terror and showed his friendly attitude to Henry, shaking hands. Although that was the first plan, Tyria didn't know what Henry was thinking. Henry grabbed Tyria's hand and moved her fingertips to his mouth. Will people stop sucking my hands? What? Henry made a sound like chew. Tyria was distracted and watched Henry let go of her hands. This is a greeting for thanking you for your care in the future. Henry, who suddenly smiled innocently, was almost as dazzling as the sun. I do not want this kind of greeting. Henry caught Tyria's hand again, that was just loosened as soon as she wanted to show her denial attitude. Let me give you some other greetings. Henry's brown eyes sparkled like wild animals that sniped at the prey. No need. Tyria's hand that was caught by Henry was let go when she put forth her strength. Henry blinked his big eyes and began to laugh while held his stomach. I won't do anything. Tyria, you are so funny. What's so interesting? Tyria was completely confused. Henry was still laughing, as if he got the punchline. I say, when are you going to stop laughing? Tyria stabbed Henry with her forefinger, and Henry finally stopped laughing. Sorry. Well, I'm about to leave. Bye. I like him more than I like the prince. I'm not a big fan of either of them, but I like him more than I like the prince. Henry left while waving one hand. Tyria took a deep sigh, watching his back. Being defiant for a moment and playing tricks on people as they are fools for a moment, Tyria felt she was played by Henry, whose attitude varied from time to time. Next time, be careful not to be outplayed by Henry again. While Tyria resumed her work of wiping the corridor, her sight shifted back to the corridor. There were two men in charge of guarding. Standing there, Tyria froze there. It was Victor's room. Victor strengthened the room's guards because I stole the intelligence. If so, it would be impossible to sneak into Victor's room as before. If the phantom thief appeared, guards may be not enough. However, it was too unreliable to expect something that didn't know when it would appear or disappear. What's more, in that case, no matter how much time Tyria had, it would not be enough. There was no options, just giving up copying files for now. Even she was always optimistic, Tyria felt worried and lost at this time. Does the room not have any windows I can get into? When Tyria didn't know how long the depression would last, suddenly someone said, "Have you finished cleaning yet?" "Oh, not yet." Tyria raised her head and found Rosette was looking at her face. Tyria hastily started cleaning. Her face was reflected on the marble floor. "Yes, when it's over, it's time for you to learn your new job." "New job?" Tyria turned around and Rosette let her follow her. Tyria completed the remaining job and caught up with Rosette. Before long, Rosette went into a room. Rosette had already waited at the bed of king size when Tyria also entered the room. Tyria continued to walk to Rosette. "This time, you'll have to replace the new pillowcases and bed sheets." Rosette worked proficiently and removed the pillowcases and bed sheet. Then Rosette covered new pillowcases and laid new bed sheets as originally placed. There was no wrinkle. Rosette's clean and agile movements made Tyria couldn't help swallowing saliva and staring at the scene. "You're so good, Rosette-senpai!" "It's just a piece of cake." "Okay, then go to the next room. It's your turn to try." Tyria thought she had been watching alongside and should have made it. However, there was always something wrong when it came to practice. There were wrinkles. Oops, it was so strange. Okay, next bed. Senpai carefully paved all wrinkled places. Tyria went to the other bed and challenged again according to what Senpai said. However, Tyria failed again. Why? Tyria mumbled to herself and pressed some strength to her panic head. You are not flattening the bed sheet yet. After you fold the bed sheet, you need to hold the other side, just like this. And the sheet made a sound of walla walla. That was amazing. According to predecessor's practice, the bed sheets could be smoothed out easily. Well, have you mastered the knack and the rest of your rooms? You need to do it in this way, okay? After the predecessor said that, he went back and continued to finish his own work. This game isn't so great at pronouns. The room just left Teneria. Our name's Teneria now? And she started to complete all tasks after a sigh. When removing the pillowcases and bedsheets, her eyes fell on the white texture. Obviously, no matter bedsheets or pillow are not dirty yet. Might as well say the bedsheets were as white as snow. Maybe they were changed every day. Living the palace, which was full of purity, for Tyria was a very happy thing. Originally speaking, this was not the ordinary people who enclosed as well as a place to take office. Tyria thought she must thank Shirley. Who's Shirley? Well, this room is work done too. It's like the translation just suddenly got way worse. Like, it was bad before, but it's suddenly just gone out the window, like they aren't trying at all. The sheet was placed in the box of the cart and Tyria went to the next room. After repeating the process more than 10 times, Tyria finally came to someone's room. It was Lantis's room. Hello, Ozmazabadabada, I don't remember your name. Tyria entered the room and went inside the bed straightly, only to see a cat occupy the whole bed leisurely. The cat stayed motionlessly. Whether slept or awoke, it was not clear. Why is it all stuck at that side? All the text. Could you please move a little bit, Ostramon's lord? Tyria tried to speak quietly, and the cat's ears suddenly made a movement. Ah, you are awake. Tyria was waiting for the cat coming down from the bed. But the cat still stayed on the bed. After Tyria waiting and waiting, you gotta move the cat yourself, honey. Cats don't move. They will stay on that goddamn bed no matter how much you try to make it. Ostramon's lord. Tyria lowered her shoulders because of dilemma. As if Tyria listened before, the cat seemed to be very cold for women. If so, then it must be used the final resort. Tyria approached the cat quietly and suddenly swooped up. Caught you just when Tyria thought she had the cat, but her arms did not actually have the cat. That's fine, the cat's off the bed. Oops. Turning her head to look back, the cat had already jumped to the ground. Light came down from the bed just now. The cat went to the corridor naturally. The cat got out of bed, which should make people feel happy, but Tyria did not feel a little pleasure. Maybe it was because of the cat's bad attitude. Anyway, the most important thing was focused on making the bed first, a complete own job. It should be strong bed, which Lantis usually... It should be the strong bed which Lantis slept usually, exuding his smell. He must use the very expensive sesame oil. There was no unpleasant smell. The thick aroma made nose itching, and Tyria also felt a little faint, so she beat her face hurriedly. Felt so dangerous. Coming to her senses, Tyria placed pillowcases and bed sheets quickly. That's it. Ha! What are you doing? Heart suddenly beat fiercely. Turning her head, Lantis was holding the cat standing there. I'm here to change bed sheets and pillowcases. Compared to Tyria's fluty answer voice, Lantis' face looked not very good. What's the matter? After that, Ander Dawes couldn't use his power at all. Lantis tightly frowned, his eyebrows, angular and handsome face was full of haze. Tyria saw this expression for the first time. Tyria wanted to say something to encourage him, so she opened her mouth and said, People always have. The state is not very good. A few days later, the force must come back. Does not speak these words irresponsibly. Although these words were to let him brace himself up, the last words he wanted to hear for Lantis, perhaps this was that Tyria bit her lips with uneasiness. Sorry, can you leave me alone for a while? Closing his eyes, Lantis said gently. Tyria came out of the room after a silence bow. Atlantis, it is the first time. Tyria pulled the trolley forward as she looked down at the ground. The fact Tyria was denounced made her upset. If Atlantis can brace himself up, which would be great. When Tyria went along the channel straightly, the predecessor came from the opposite. What's wrong? How's it going on after that? No, everything is good. Tyria saluted like the army. Predecessor was amused. A Chad like you can come here, which is out of my expectation. A Chad like me not be allowed? Tyria looked at Predecessor restlessly. His face became more moderate. No, I never say it not okay. The gap between work, appropriate relax is okay. Is that true? The laughing that burst out mitigates surrounding atmosphere. However, Tyria and Predecessor both put on a serious expression. The chat is over here, then go back to work. Oh, is it over? Predecessor switched the state quickly, which let Tyria cannot keep up with her speed. When Tyria still sighed, the predecessor had already left. After that, when Tyria finished her job, she rested in the single room of the dormitory as usual. Okay, I'm going to leave this episode here. If you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like or subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!